Welcome to the mountain lion cub. First thing I did was transfer my drawing to an 11 by 14 piece of beige velour paper. And then I used my pencil to fill in some of the missing spots, and then I used my charcoal pencil 4B to draw in some of the stripes and around the eyes, and I also added a base coat of 409.7 to the face. Now here I'm using my 4B charcoal pencil to draw around the eyes of the cat. Now I'm using the 4B charcoal pencil instead of the 6 because it's not quite as soft and it's harder. And this is a smaller animal than I usually paint on velour paper. So I wanted to be very precise with my drawing, and the 4B allows me to do that. So I'm drawing around the eye with that. And I'm going to use my 229 NuPastel black to color in the darkest area of the eye in the corner and around the pupil. Now, mountain lion cubs have blue eyes, so we're going to color this eye blue. Now I'm highlighting the bright highlight with, this is a white pastel pencil, or you can use your white charcoal pencil. Now, since the cub has blue eyes, I'm going to use Carbothello number 430 middle blue to color in the basic color of the eye. Okay, then to add a darker color, I'm going to use 400 Paris blue, and that's going to be mostly on the left side of the eye because the light is going to be on the right at the bottom. So I'm using the darker Paris blue, and I'm going to put the highlight in with a Carbothello Ultra Blue Light, which is number 435. So I'm putting in the brightest light at the bottom of the eye with the 435. Now I'm going to darken the corner a little bit more with my black and also the pupil. Now I'm not using any spruce blue underneath this black because the area is so small. I'm going to darken underneath the eyelid on that rim with my charcoal pencil. Now this is a 259 gray NuPastel that I'm using on to shade the tear duct in the corner of the eye, underneath the eye. It's not really black, so I chose a dark gray. And this is 416. Dark rose. So I'm going to use the dark rose to add some pink there. And here I'm lightening that up with the pastel pencil. You can also use a NuPastel 286 Matter Pink to add those lights, which would be another good choice if you have that color. And darken it a little bit with my charcoal pencil and put in a few hairs with the charcoal pencil. And I'm going to use my 211 white NuPastel, the edge, to put in a few to brighten up the highlight in the eye a little bit. And I'm going to go back and add a little more light blue. I just keep going back and forth between these things until I get it just right. Now everywhere that the hair is going to be white, I'm going to undercoat that with gray. So I'm using 704.7 gray to put underneath the eye, which will later be white. We'll add white hair. I'm using 263 Indian Red now, adding brown hair on the cat's face. Now, the thing about NuPastels is they offer a lot of wonderful colors, and they do have a really big range of browns, but most of them can get to be too red. Indian Red is just the perfect red brown. So I'm going to put some on the bridge of the nose and in different places as we are gradually bringing up the values, darkening things in our cat. Now I'm using a Conte pencil number 32 Umber. And the reason I'm using this is it's about the same value as the Indian Red, but it keeps the cat's face from getting too red. So I'm using it on the side. I'm not stroking in hairs. I'm just using it lightly to blend the red brown and darken the color a little more. And this way, because this is a grayer brown, it keeps the cat's fur from getting too red. It would be really easy to end up with a lot of red brown and not be an accurate color of this baby cub. So I'm using this 32 Conte pencil. I'm just using it on its side, just coloring it in. It works beautifully for this. Conte pencils are really good on velour. Now I'm going to switch back to my 263, my Indian Red, and add some red brown. And now I'm switching back to the Conte pencil number 32 as I work in areas near the ear, which are going to be darker. And I always use my reference photo. I follow it as closely as I can to get the information on color and placement and value that I need to make my painting successful. Now it's time to go a little darker with the fur. And so for that, we're going to use 353 Cordovan, which is a Mars Violet color. So I'm darkening around the eyes and underneath the eyes. I'm leaving the area that's going to have white fur alone. I'm not adding any color there. The tip of the nose, the side of the nose. Just taking my time and working out these values. Using the pencil now in the center of the nose. And it kind of helps to blend these colors into the velour. Now I'm going to make the muzzle black in certain areas, and to do that I'm going to base coat it in 305 spruce blue. Now I didn't use the spruce blue in the eye area because it was too tiny, but I am going to do it here because it just makes a richer black. So I'm using my spruce blue to come down and carefully put in the nostrils and work around the muzzle. I'm being as accurate as I can be with the shape, and I'm going to use my little 32 Conte pencil to kind of blend that area out into the edge of the face. And now I'm going over the spruce blue with the 229 black to make it a deeper black color. Here I'm adding some 704.7 to the mouth area of the cat because that's going to be white later on, so we want to put some gray in there. I'm using my black underneath this tear duct and darkening the nose just a little bit with the black. Now I'm going to color the nose with the 416 dark rose. And put a little bit around the mouth area. The reference photo shows it to be a little bit pink. And then I can use my white charcoal pencil to add some highlights, or 286 NuPastel Matter Pink. I'm going to use my charcoal pencil to just define that area around the nose a little bit more. I'm going to make the corner of the eye darker, and I'm going to use my 229 black to darken the stripe. And here I'm using the 32 pastel pencil to make this a little bit deeper in color, changing to the cordovan as I need to go one shade darker. So we're gradually bringing up the values in the face until we get it just like we want it. I love the cordovan. It is a beautiful color. I use it in most every painting that I paint. I'm switching back and forth between the cordovan and the 263 Indian Red. I enjoy this part of the painting very much because we're just using the side of the pastel. We're not making hairs. We're just coloring like you would color in a coloring book. We're going back and forth over these areas so we get a realistic looking fur tone. We're not adding hairs. We're just adding color at this point. I'm using that 32 pencil, particularly on the side of the face where the cat has turned his head. It's a little grayer on that side. It's more in shadow, I suppose. So I'm using the 32 in the center of the cat, the cub's head, and we'll come back and add richer color. Now I have my black, my 229 black, but I decided I really needed to put some blue down first. This particular area is very dark spot, so I've got my 305 spruce blue and I'm putting in that black spot that's there, and I'm going to go over it with 229 NuPastel black to get it deep and rich in color. And that's right over the cat's eye. Each eye has one of these spots. As they grow older, they're going to lose their spots. Now, this is the tip of the cordovan, so I'm blending the black into the fur so it's not real harsh. The spot, this will cause it to fade into the fur of the cat, which is a nice soft effect. We want our kitten to look soft because he is just a kitten. He's a little cub. I'm looking over my piece at this point, seeing if it needs something else, and I decide that I want to go a little bit deeper in the eyes, so I'm going to add a little more blue. This is the 400 Parisian blue, and a little bit lighter blue with the light 435. And I'm going to sharpen up around the eyes with my charcoal pencil. I'm using my 229 black to go a little bit darker at the corner of the eye. This is the 263 Indian Red, continuing to darken the outside on the right side of the cat's face. Just gently adding color. I'm going to go under his mouth, in his mouth area, down underneath his chin a little bit. Still using the 263 Indian Red. I've moved to the top of his head. I'm going to add more color up here. This will have some black spots, but we want to add the brown color first, and then we'll darken the spots and stripes as we go. And again, I'm switching to the cordovan, the 353 NuPastel, to darken these stripes on the cat's face. Now I want to blend that area together a little better, so I'm going to use the Conte Pastel Pencil 32 to do that. See how that bridges the gap between the darker hairs. It's kind of the middle value of our cub. So I'm reshaping the top of the head a little bit with the 263. This is the 259 dark gray NuPastel. So I'm going to shade inside the ears. So the gray that I have that we put down as a base coat is a 704.7 in the ears. And it's just not dark enough. So this is going to add shadow to the ears. So I'm using it lightly and trying to blend it a little bit with my finger. And then again, we're using the 416 dark rose because the inside of the cub's ears are pink. So we're going to use this as our pink. It's a good medium value. It's a very useful color. And then I'm going to lighten up that pink with 286 Matter Pink, or I can use my 211 White to go over that lightly and turn it pink. So we have a lighter value of pink, which is good. And now I'm going to use my charcoal pencil to give a little more definition in there. Put in a few dark black hairs. Now our white hairs show up from the white charcoal pencil that we applied earlier. So I'm kind of going in between them with the charcoal pencil, the black charcoal pencil, to define that area a little bit more. I don't want it to be harsh because this is a baby, so we want everything to be kind of soft. So I'm just gently going in these areas of the ear. My stripe needs to be a little darker coming out of the corner of the eye, so I use some black on that. And I'm darkening around the muzzle with the 353. And now we're going back to the 229 black to make things darker in the ear. The charcoal pencil wasn't dark enough, so now I'm using the 229 black to make it darker. Using the 416 dark rose, I'm adding a little more pink to the inner ear. Now these ideas, colors, and techniques you can use for any of your animals. Now I'm using a white pastel pencil, or I could use my white charcoal pencil to draw in a few hairs. Or I can use my 211 NuPastel. I want that to be very sharp, to have sharp edges, and I can draw in fine white hair with that, like I'm doing around the eye. That just really looks nice. And under the eye. And I just switch position of my hand. The 211 pastel works better than the pastel pencil because it's more highly pigmented than a white pastel pencil. This works really well. So I'm just going to draw out a few of those hairs into that beautiful little face that we painted. To add some brighter hair on the side of the face, I'm using my number 47 Conte pencil, Naples Yellow. And then in between those hair, I'm using the Conte pencil 32 to kind of separate those a little. I'm going to add some brighter hair in the ear as well. So I'm using my 211 NuPastel to do that. Now I sped up this section a little bit. I'm using the white NuPastel to add hair. This is just, it's in a pastel holder, so it looks a little different, but I'm just adding those hairs down into from the ear down into the head, and also from the edge of the ear inside the ear. This cat has lots of hairs in there. Here I'm using my charcoal pencil to kind of define the hair under the eye. Continue darkening that area a little bit. And also using my 211 NuPastel. I put a few more little hairs into the area. I'm adding them one by one. And using the 47 Conte pencil, which is Naples yellow, adding that gives them a kind of a gold tone. So I can put those across the top of the nose. I'm not pushing very hard. I don't want them to be super bright or show up too much, but just enough to add some color and definition to the top of the nose. Now I have this little piece of NuPastel 211 white that I keep sharpened to a point because I can get into little places. So you can see I'm using the tip of this to color the muzzle with white pastel. And this works great because there's really not much room to add a whole lot of definition, so we just want to color that area white. And also under the chin, the mouth area, we're just adding that white color. And I always, like I said, I always have a piece of the white NuPastel sharpened to a point that I keep just for this purpose and for adding highlights in eyes. And now I've switched to my larger stick of NuPastel white so that I can use the edge to stroke in the fur on the side of the cub's face and down into the neck area. And when the edge gets dull, I rotate my stick to get a sharp edge, and when they all get dull, I sharpen them. And I change position of my hand as is comfortable to get the hair in. If you want to turn your painting upside down or however you need to do it to be comfortable, do that so that you can get nice strokes of fur. I continue looking around my painting and adding things that will improve it. I'm using my Conte number 47 to make the hair on the side of the face a little bit brighter. So you just have to look around your painting and add it to it what you think it needs. I'm using my brown Conte pencil here, pulling little brown hairs out into the white hairs on the side of the face. And I'm going to use it down underneath the chin, just shading in a little bit down there. side of the cub's face like we have done this side. Do the eye and the ear and the side of the face. And after you've done that, then we're going to work on the body of the cub. So I'm using my charcoal pencil to add in some of the stripes of fur to mark them, because I had not done this area of the body yet with charcoal pencil or with the white charcoal pencil as needed. So I'm just going to add those stripes. I sped this up a bit. You want to go through and use your 4B charcoal pencil and mark where the stripes are going to go, in the direction they're going to go, before we add the base coat on top of the kitten. I'm also shading a little bit under the ruff of the neck, under his head, but not too much yet. Now after I've drawn in all the stripes, I'm going to add the base coat to the mountain lion cub. In the brown areas, I'm going to use 409.7 burnt umber. And in the areas that are going to be white, I'm going to use 704.7, which is a light gray. So this is a whole stick. I didn't break this stick. You can break yours and sand it. I'm using the end of it and just going back and forth using a crosshatch stroke to gently add the brown color to the paper. This is our base coat. I didn't add any gray for a base coat, just this. The gray goes only in the areas that are going to be white later. I'm adding 704.7 into the center, which is going to be white. So we want to make it gray, and then we're going to add white here on top of it. And now I'm using my 263 Indian Red, and I'm adding darker color. I've switched to the 353 Cordovan. I didn't think the 263 was dark enough, so I put it down and picked up the 353 to add the shadows under the kitten's face. And so using my reference photo, I'm going to use the 353 or the 263 to add color to the body of the cub. Here I'm using the 229 NuPastel Black to darken the stripe a little bit in that area. I'm not using a lot of black. I'm just adding a little bit to that area. This is 263 Indian Red, adding more brown fur. Now that I have a rhythm and a color plan, I'm working back and forth between the 353, the 263, and the black 229 to develop this area. Darkening the stripes as needed and gently adding a color. This is 263. I'm making sure I always follow the direction the fur grows as well. Now as we work out towards the left side of the cub, which is his body, the fur direction is going to change. And we must be aware of that so that our strokes can go in that direction. They actually get to be more horizontal as we work towards the left. This is 353. So 353 is our dark brown, and 263 is our middle brown, and black becomes the darkest color we're going to use. And we're not going to use it everywhere, only occasionally, because we don't want to draw attention to these stripes. We want the attention to be on our cub's face. I sped up the video a little bit at this point. I'm using my black to reinforce those stripes. That's the 229 Black NuPastel. I'm just going back and forth over some of them to get them a little darker before we add more color. And this is the 263 Indian Red, our middle value brown. And a little black over that to darken it down. It takes a little bit of time to get in all these elements, but it's worth it. The end effect is great. Now, I'm not adding any 263 in the center because that's where the white fur is. So we don't want to put the brown there, just the gray that we put initially. Now this is 353 Cordovan that I'm using. It's the darker brown. I am putting a little bit over the black. It helps to tone it down and modify it a little bit. Here I'm using my 353 to make the next layer of stripes, working outward on the body of the cub. And I am making them very uneven because I want people to look at this and know there are stripes, but for the stripes not to be the dominant thing that you see. Now I've picked up my 263 Indian red and I'm adding red brown in this area. And then after I use the red brown, the Indian red, now I've gone back to the 353 to darken the stripe. I can pick up my black, 229, and make it a little bit darker in areas. But I'm doing this in a very kind of haphazard, zigzag kind of stroke, and I'm being very careful to go in the direction that the fur grows. It's very important. Now, grabbing my 32 Conte pencil, I can use it to blend this area together, adding that light gray brown. It works so well. I'm really happy with that. I needed some kind of color to make all these different tones come together, and this works beautifully for that. It's also going to help us integrate our stripes together on the body of the cat so that it has a more cohesive look. So I'm just kind of going across the area with that pencil. Working down the front of our cub now, using the 353 to darken those stripes. We have to put in these darks and middle values on the fur before we can add the white fur. It forms the base coat, and the lights don't show up unless you put the darks in first. I'm going to add some black with the 229 black over the 353 to make it even darker in some areas, not everywhere. I'm going to use my 259 dark gray NuPastel to add shadows to the fur at the bottom of the cat's chest before I add the white NuPastel hairs. This will give some shading and definition to this area. I'm continuing to add some dark gray shadows to this area. And we're going to continue with the fur and developing the fur on the mountain lion cub in part 2. So join me there.